What was the one word that meant the end for Harry and Meghan in the eyes of the late Queen? Which foreign royal did Prince William pay a low-key visit to last week? What is the shocking value of Catherine's ring collection? We've got all that and so much more for you coming up. Hello and welcome to Palace Confidential. I'm Jo Elvin, and on today's panel is the Daily Mail's royal editor, Rebecca English, and the Mail's diary editor, Richard Eden. Welcome to you both. Where would we be without you? We'd be so much less knowledgeable because, now, last week we hit a mini milestone. That's right, you took us to 450,000 subscribers here on the Daily Mail Royals channel. But you know what, you know me, we're hungry for more. They always make me say that. It's like, I sound so desperate. Well, we do, we want to get to that 500,000 mark. So you know what to do. Go on, please, click subscribe if you already don't. As I always say, it is free and subscribers get notified whenever a new episode appears. So why wouldn't you? Right, let's get to my panel now. Richard, David Beckham is finally to get his knighthood and become Sir David. Oh, it's been a long slog, hasn't it? Tell us more.
First thing to say is welcome back, Jo. We missed you.
Very
we missed
much.
you last week.
Thank you very much to our producer Luke Blackhall / Prince Harry for taking up the slack there. But yes, thank you.
Yes, no, David Beckham, he has been angling for an honour for years. The reason we know this with certainty is there was some very embarrassing leaked emails years ago where he was expressing his desire for a knighthood.
He certainly was.
And he was talking about how to get one and being very rude about some others who'd achieved honours before him. They were terrible leaks. But anyway, he will, I should say, this weekend, apparently, he will receive the knighthood in the King's birthday honours. So that's great for him. It means that Posh Spice, as she was, Victoria Beckham, will be
definitely going to be posh.
She'll be Lady Beckham.
Yes.
She'll be
Victoria.
She'll be properly posh. So yeah, he'll be delighted, and this comes as he's forged closer links with the royal family. We've talked about that here quite a bit before. He's an ambassador for the King's charity, the King's Foundation, and we saw how close they've become at the Chelsea Flower Show, actually, where it was very chummy. The King sort of said to him, oh, you know, did you get my gift? But perhaps the gift was the knighthood.
Yeah, exactly. It's a nice one.
No, but I should say, because lots of people have been saying, oh, why is the King giving him a knighthood or something? To explain to our viewers, particularly those overseas, it's not the royal family who decide on honours. It's a committee sort of made up of the great and good, and they advise the government. And it is the government which decides. And in this case, it will be because of charitable work that David Beckham has done, and he has done a lot, and then other factors. But I'm sure that, the royal family can put in a good word too, that will have helped.
Exactly. I mean, Richard touches on there, Rebecca, there are some misconceptions about how this honours system works. And the King can say, oh, I'd like to give one to so-and-so. How does it work?
Well, there are certain aspects of the honours process, that there's kind of orders of merit, there's the Royal Victorian Order, which are in the gift of the monarch. Becoming a sir or a lady is not in the King's gift, but obviously I can imagine that the King would express, happiness if that was to be the case. Because as Richard rightly says, David has been very involved with some of his charities now, an ambassador for the King's Foundation. In fact, he'll be with King today, later on this afternoon, at a big King's Foundation award ceremony marking 35 years of the King's Foundation. I've been told he'll be there to that as well.
I'd love to know if the monarch can actually object, though.
Well, that's what was going to be my question. Can the King also say, oh, not?
Yeah, if he sees the name and says, look, I do not want to, put my sword on his shoulder. I don't know. I think they probably could, Palace could raise objections and maybe that be taken into account. But I think ultimately it is not the monarch's decision.
It's not. And I think I can imagine that there's a few people that the late Queen Elizabeth had to knight or hand honours to that she probably did through gritted teeth, I have to say.
Goodness me. Well, Richard, what do you think now that Sir David will have his gong? We've seen some the incredible legwork he's put in. Do you think it'd be a case of, well, I've got my gift now, I'm going to scarper? He won't ghost the King, will he?
Don't be so cynical. No, I think...
I'm just, I'm here to ask the question.
To be fair, I think David Beckham's always been a monarchist, and I've heard about, he'd always love watching the Queen's speech, and, don't forget, he queued for, I think it was 13 hours to pass by the coffin of Queen Elizabeth when she was lying in state. things like that. And that was genuine, so he is a monarchist. So no, he'll love the chance to mix with the royal family, and I'm sure he won't be ghosting the king now that he's got his honour.
Well, in fact, you mentioned that queuing up. I remember speaking to him about it at a couple of functions, and he was saying that he said my grandparents would have absolutely queued up to pay their respects, and I feel I'm doing it for them. He was really, really passionate.
Yeah,
about
I think they would be
They
would have been extremely proud of him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I can't imagine anyone ghosting the king when he has big guns like this. That was quite the recoil.
Yes.
Tell us what was going on here, Rebecca.
So the king was visiting one of his regiments, the Royal Artillery in Wiltshire, and I got a message actually from someone at the palace a couple of days before saying he might be shooting a gun. They didn't tell me it was going to be that big a gun, but he loved it. I mean, he was actually a real smile on his face, and I think he doesn't get the chance to get as stuck in now he's monarch, so I think he really enjoyed the chance to do so.
Come on,
we'd all out of the way.
Yeah.
We'd all like to do that on our birthday, wouldn't we? Fire a big cannon or something.
True. Now, he obviously managed to stay upright when that gun went off, Richard, but the same can't be said for Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, who nearly took a tumble when she saw His Majesty this week.
It's always been awkward, is curtsying. I mean, look, for men...
It is awkward. Have you ever had to practice it?
Well, yeah, for men it's quite straightforward because, we do a bow and often it's a sort of nod of the head, isn't it? A sign of respect. In the case of women, traditionally, they would curtsy for the monarch. And in this case, Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, curtsied when she met the king at, I think it was the Royal Windsor Flower Show. But she lost her footing. I'm not sure if she was in high heels or anyway. And then
That's
she
the
sort
other
of
complication with the curtsy.
Yeah, she sort of slipped over a bit while doing it. I think they both found it amusing, and I don't think it was. I mean, it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
I want to
too
see
awkward.
you curtsy, Richard, and curtsy in heels like this as well.
But also,
Exactly.
you don't have to do it the way Meghan did in that video. No, but you don't have to do the
no
whole...
one has to do it the way Meghan did it in that video at all. In fact, mate, you laugh. I was in a gym class the other day and we had to do something called curtsy squats.
Oh yeah, I hate those.
And the gym instructor was talking over people. She said, "Oh, look at that lady at the back. She knows how to do a curtsy squat." And she joked and said, "Maybe you're off to meet the king." And I just smirked and didn't say anything.
She's so sweet, secret squirrel in your real life. And you don't tell
no
anyone.
one knows what I do for a living.
That's so funny.
It made me laugh.
You need to say, well, actually, yeah.
No, I would never do that.
Well, enough about curtsying, because I want to move on to William and Katherine, who've both been out and about. And first up, here's a clip of William.
Halfway through this decisive decade, I call on all of you to think big in your actions. Let us act together with urgency and optimism while we still have the chance. For the future of our planet, for the future generations, we must listen to the words of Sir David Attenborough. If we save the sea, we save our world. Merci encore de me recevoir ici aujourd'hui. Maintenant, c'est le moment de passer à l'action. Passez un excellent après-midi. Merci.
Now, Rebecca, I can imagine that William would have been looking around sort of like, where is Rebecca? Where is she? Because he's so used to seeing you
I
wherever
love
he
your
is.
faith in me.
He must have been so sad not to see you there, but still managed to have a nice time.
He was in Monaco, which is beautiful,
Yes.
but a very serious issue he was there about, which was attending the Blue Economy Conference, and it was very much about oceans, saving our oceans, preserving our oceans, as he said in his speech. If you save the seas, you save our world, echoing what Sir David Attenborough famously said. And this speech was really talked up to us because it was a big step on the international stage. He was addressing presidents from around the world, and obviously it's something he's incredibly passionate about because of his Earthshot Awards.
Indeed. Now, Richard, we also understand that he popped in to see another royal while he was there. Is that a thing that royals do, just pop in on each other?
I think you do generally. I mean, Monaco's a small place, and in this case, the event was being hosted by Prince Albert of Monaco, and that's who Prince William saw while he was there. And he's someone who feels strongly about the seas as well. The whole thing to me did highlight the good that Prince William and the royal family in general can do, because this issue, it got loads of attention over the weekend because of this, and it's serious stuff. They're talking about the damage that's been doing with particular methods of fishing, that sort of bottom trawling, the damage they're doing to the seabed. And it's really raised that as an issue for something that lots of people wouldn't necessarily pay much attention to. So I think it was a really important visit.
Yeah. Now, Katherine, meanwhile, Rebecca was out and about looking as stylish as ever.
She was highlighting in her role as patron of the Victoria and Albert Museum this incredible new exhibition space they've got in East London. It's called V&A East Storehouse, and it highlights some of the kind of 600,000 items they've got that you never normally get to see. And as members of the public, you can have an order service where you can say, I want to see this object close up, and you order it and you get time with one of the curators to talk about it. And so many people, when I wrote about it this week on Mail Online, said, God, I never knew this existed. I'm definitely going to go and visit. And again, showing the power of the royal family and the light that they can shine on causes such as this.
Absolutely. Now, there was also a sweet story that was really popular on Mail Online about why Catherine's everyday jewellery isn't as expensive or as showy as some people might think.
Yeah, because there's a cheeky teaser saying about the shock of calculation of her jewellery. But actually, experts are saying, aside from that famous iconic engagement ring, the rings she tends to wear they're nice and they come with a price tag, but probably amount to not much more than £10,000. Of course, that's a huge amount of money, but when you consider all the kind of very priceless items in the royal family's collection, she tends to be quite kind of modest and not particularly showy. And as we know, we've discussed on the programme before, she does wear a lot of inexpensive kind of costume jewellery. Her necklace, for example, on that day, I think was maybe about £100,
wow.
Quite a big chunky, so it's, she does mix and match quite a lot.
Well, I hope for the big occasions and the state banquet, she still delves into that royal collection and we see those beautiful pieces, that have been in the family for generations.
It would be a shame for those to go to waste.
Yeah, we don't want to
you can't have a whole room of tiaras sitting there and not get them out for an airing every now and again.
She is very modest about this. And I don't know if I've told you this before, but one of the first times I ever really spoke to her was on the day that they announced their engagement. And I got a kind of early heads up from Clarence House that it was going to be announced. And actually, I was on maternity leave at the time. And they said, we knew you'd never forgive us if we didn't tell you. And they invited the royal correspondents to have a kind of cup of tea with them and a chat before the big photo call. And at one point I was talking to her when she was in that kind of fabulous Isa dress, and they hadn't actually announced what ring she'd been given, and she hadn't made a fuss about it. And I'll be honest, I had a 3-month-old baby, so I had baby brain, and I kind of suddenly looked down and I kind of looked at her finger and went, is that what I think it is? And she kind of looked really modest and smiled and went, yeah, no, wow. It is. And actually, William gave it to me because he wanted his mother to be, part of this. That was the first time I ever clocked that ring on her finger.
Amazing. That's such a brilliant story. Now, we're going to look at some of your comments now because there was nearly 5,000 of them from last week's show. Thank you so much for that. To last week's show, which, among lots of other things, looked at Meghan Markle's infamous twerking video. Now, if you missed the team's reaction, head back and watch it after this. Her Majesty the Queen writes, love that name, seriously cleared my schedule for this video. I told my family I had an appointment this afternoon and would not be available. I need Rebecca and Richard's coverage on the video. Love that. See, so people, the masses want to know what you think. Lisa College was super eager as well. She says, it's 4 a.m. in Australia and I have been waiting to hear what my fave journos have to say about the deplorable Duchess. Goodness me. Love that dedication. Do many of you get up early or stay up late to watch us? We know that some of you fall asleep to us, so please let us know in the comments below. Now, Queen Red Special was one of a number of you who did think that a member of the royal family had snuck into our studio last week when I wasn't there. The host looks like Prince Harry. I thought it was going to be a skit. I've said that before about our Luke. Now, thank you, as I say, thank you, Luke, for stepping in for me last week. After we read out a comment from a viewer in Portugal, lots of you got in touch saying that you watched from there. And it was lovely to hear from you all. So, obrigada. Hope I've said that right for all of those. We also had a lot of questions from you. Mickey asks, question, was that Jason Knauf I spotted by Prince William's side at the Blue Economy Forum in Monaco? Rebecca, was it? What can you tell us?
It was 100% Jason.
Well done, well spotted.
He obviously was CEO of their Royal Foundation, stepped down from that, but he's now been reappointed to a new position, which is CEO of William's Earthshot Prize Awards. And actually, William was using the bigger occasion of his big speech in Monaco to introduce some of the Earthshot winners that have got ocean-related success stories to some of the delegates there. So it was kind of perfectly understandable that Jason would be there.
There you go, you were right. Now this one's for Richard Eden. Out of curiosity, why would Archie need a British passport? Isn't he British by birth? He's also been able to travel as an infant using what should be his British passport. I don't understand what Harry is up to. What's he up to, Richard? Do you know?
I mean, it's a good question because it's always hard to work out the motives of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. But in this case, you do need a passport for a child. Like, even if they're British, you still need a passport. I mean, the interesting question is why they want British passports for the children. In the case of Lilibet, I think she's only been to Britain once. They're American now. I think they've got American accents from what we hear. Why do they want British nationality at all? But clearly they're very keen for it, and it's a big issue as we now know. So, but yes, both of them, both the children will have the ability to have British nationality from Prince Harry.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I guess, yes, if you're British, you want your children to have that. But am I overthinking? I just think if you're part of the royal family, and I know they're a bit different, but if you're being funded by British taxpayers, is that normal to have dual nationality?
Well, the monarch doesn't need a passport, by the way, but obviously other members of the royal family, when they're travelling, do. I can imagine Harry would say that it's important for his children to obviously retain links with, his country of birth. I presume at some point he's hoping that they will be able to travel to the UK more. I can imagine that's his arguments. But I think Richard's right. Some people will question the motivation when he's done everything he can to disassociate himself from the royal family, the institution. Why does he want to cling on to it?
Remember that Meghan gave up plans to have a British passport because you're allowed to have dual nationality, British and American, and she started that process to apply for British citizenship that she was going to have in addition to American, but she gave up actually, so she wasn't here long enough.
Do you think she would have had to do that life in the UK test that I had to do?
Yes,
she would.
They made clear that she would have to do everything. Well, you passed presumably.
You do pass, yeah.
Did they ask you questions about the royal family in it?
Yes, they do. Yeah, they're asking.
Did you get those right, Jo?
I did. I did really well. It's like if you read the book, you'll pass. It's just reading the book is the chore, not the test. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, let's carry on. We'll have more on Harry and Meghan in a minute, but thank you for all of those comments and questions. We'll have to do another Q&A episode soon, I think. We get a lot of them. Before that, though, we'll stay with the Sussexes as we tackle more of the week's big talking points. And Rebecca came up with a huge one the other day when she revealed the one word that annoyed the Queen so much that it spelt the end for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle in the royal family. Now, before you tell us the word, Rebecca, set the scene.
I was desperate to know what that word was.
Oh, me too. Oh, boy.
Clicked immediately,
Clicky.
You see, you're the target audience, Richard. It came out as a result of a discussion last week because of that infamous twerking video. And the person I was speaking to, who's very well placed in this, and someone I spoke to at the time said, see, I told you, at the time, the Queen, the late Queen Elizabeth, knew instinctively, she's a good judge of these things, she knew instinctively this would end in tears. And it has. And there was a trigger word in Harry and Meghan's statement that they gave, the first statement they gave in January 2020 when they announced, yes, we are going to leave the royal family and explore a new role for ourselves. There was one word in that statement that just made her realise the writing was on the wall and this would all end in tears. That's the scene.
Now, there were some questions over whether it had to do with the claims of racism that Meghan had made in the Oprah interview, but that wasn't true, was it?
No, and I made a point in the piece that I wrote that I don't want to sound like I'm negating them, because I'm not. Issues of racism are very serious. They need to be taken seriously. But in the royal family's case, they found those kind of allegations very offensive, but they were very hopeful that the British public would see them for what they were, which was, you know, an attempt to kind of weaponise a very difficult issue against them. So, you know, I know people would immediately think that the word would be racism, and it wasn't, but I say I don't want to sound like I'm downgrading it, because it was a serious issue at the time.
So don't leave us on tenterhooks. What was the word?
I suddenly realised I forgot to tell you.
There's people all over the world now like...
So the word was collaborate, and it was a throwaway word in the last line of the statement, and it basically said that as we, you know, we're looking forward to this new role, we're only doing this because we've got you, the public, support to do this, and as we do it, we will continue to collaborate with the Queen and other senior members of the royal family.
Okay.
And at the time, someone very senior said to me, nobody collaborates with the Queen. How rude and how insulting.
Is it, just to play devil's advocate, is it more of a case of the generational change in language? That's such a, it's just so part of young people's social media vernacular, isn't it, that word? And it's like, it just was ill thought through rather than meant to be a diss.
But I think this is where Harry and Meghan always fatally misunderstood things. As members of the family, what they do is history. You know, it's not a quick post on social media, you know, that's here today, gone tomorrow. You know, what the royal family do and say is a matter for our official record books. So, you know, they do need to think about things more when they're putting out these statements and what they're saying. And it gave the palace, I think, an insight into their mentality and what they wanted to get out of this, which was basically everything to their own advantage. And one person said to me, you know, like I said to you at the time, that, you know, they were always pushing the envelope from the start, professionally, commercially, and this is the road they're going to go down. And the Queen knows what works, you know, and she knows instinctively that never the twain shall meet on something like this.
I have to admit, I was expecting that one word to be a lot ruder than collaborate.
Well, it's the royal definition of a C word. But what is... So essentially it's saying that there was a feeling that Harry and Meghan sort of saw themselves as on an equal pegging with the Queen rather than part of a hierarchy in the royal family.
Yeah, I mean, I think effectively, yes, but it was more the attitude that we are such a big entity in our own right that, you know, we have the power to dip in and out, and we will find ways that we can almost sprinkle our glitter on what they do.
Our dried flowers.
Indeed.
Very good, Richard.
Yeah.
And it was like, it's not how it works, because, you know, the Queen is our head of state. You know, anyone who works, and this is something I think they really fundamentally understood, but if you work for a company and you've got a boss, you are subservient to them.
Yeah.
It's for all of us who work in industries, you know, we are not our own bosses. You know, ultimately there is someone who draws the line, and they just couldn't seem to really understand that.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because, Richard, given their keenness, they were so demonstrative about wanting to show affection and respect for the Queen. But do you think that this time they just played it wrong and went too far?
It's interesting with them because they always sort of, on the one hand, tried to pretend that they were respectful of the Queen. So, you know, like they'd be criticising other members of the royal family in, let's take the Oprah Winfrey interview, for example. But then Meghan would make a point of saying, oh no, the Queen was lovely to me, and that sort of thing. But then they did so many things to hurt them. You know, and I mean, I think of just the broadcast of that interview when Prince Philip was literally in hospital at the time and died, you know, quite soon after. So, you know, it was a weird, I would say superficial actually, trying to sort of pretend, oh yeah, you know, she's my grandmother, I have a great relationship with the Queen, but at the same time hurting her. So it was a strange attitude generally.
It is strange, isn't it? It's like, you know, we love the Queen, we respect the Queen, but we're also criticising the institution that she is in charge of.
Exactly, and they could fundamentally never seem to understand that. They had an idea we were being clever and trying to ring fence her. But if you're criticising the whole institution of which she is the head of, then you're criticising the way she runs it. They could never understand. They couldn't disassociate the two.
Has there been any reaction that you know of from the Sussexes to that piece?
I've not heard anything.
Right.
But as I think, as Richard said on the programme last week, they tend to like not to speak to the popular press.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, that's very true. Now, Richard, back to a story we touched on last week, that you've been speaking to some royal sources about this bizarre story about Harry's potential name change to Spencer. Can you bring us up to speed and tell us what's new?
Yeah, I mean, just the new developments was, so the story essentially was that Prince Harry had discussed with his uncle Earl Spencer about changing the family name to Spencer instead of Mountbatten Windsor. So it was a very interesting story, but then we got the reaction from Harry and Meghan came via a newspaper that's not usually very interested in royal matters, is the Guardian.
Yeah.
And the explanation was all about the passports that we were touching on earlier, that Harry was very worried about these passports for their children, and he thought the process was being delayed, and that's why he thought, could it be quicker if I changed our name to Spencer? It's bizarre. But anyway, in this piece, there was a reference to the fact that Harry and Meghan are very keen for their children to have the future option of returning to the royal fold, of becoming full-time working royals.
Right.
And that's why they were particularly keen to have His Royal Highness, Her Royal Highness titles actually written, printed in their British passports. So it's kind of bizarre. But anyway, I've been speaking to people over the course of the last week, and the reaction from the royal side of things here has been complete bemusement, because all we've been hearing for the past 5 years is how awful it is in royal life. Harry, I dare to say, he wrote a book about it. We've had Meghan talking about how it was so horrible, the whole experience, that she contemplated suicide. We had Harry talking about generational trauma and stuff. So why, the royal courtiers and people are asking, why would they then want that for their children? They just cannot understand this at all.
I'd love to know your views on that, Rebecca, because that phrase does stick, doesn't it? Generational trauma. He had a terrible, terrible time being a royal. Why does he want that for?
I suspect it's a case of can't live without it, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you have to ask, can't live without it, is it because he is, secretly very emotional and proud of it, or is it because he sees it as his continuing commercial future for his family? The fact that everything they do is on the back of the fact that they are still His and Her Royal Highnesses, even though they can't use those titles publicly.
It makes you wonder how much of a connection, as they grow older, Archie and Lilibet can even feel to the monarchy.
Well,
growing up in America, it's weird.
I just can't imagine it has any relevance to them.
Harry and Meghan have made sure that they have that connection by insisting on the titles of Prince and Princess.
Yeah.
And I mean, call me cynical, but my view of why they want this is financial. And we had a clue to this last week when, in Meghan's podcast, she was interviewing Beyonce, the pop superstar, her mother, Tina Knowles, and talking about, families making money and stuff. And she talks about how she'd like to start a business eventually with her daughter, Lilibet. I mean, the girl's only just turned 4 and she's already, planning her...
Well, it's about time she started pulling away,
financial future. So I just think from their point of view, if they can keep the royal ties and the possibility of, royal roles with maybe, their cousin Prince George, who, they barely met, that could be lucrative for the future. So I'm afraid, like so often with Harry and Meghan, it's all about money.
Well, they will keep us riveted, that's for sure. Now, we'll put a link to both Rebecca and Richard's stories in the description below. Now, sticking with Meghan for a moment, Richard, she did have a big event coming up this weekend, but now that's under threat.
Yes, it's not clear if it's going to go ahead, but it's an awards ceremony. And we know that Harry and Meghan, since they've been in America, have been receiving lots of awards. This is an award, it was going to go to Meghan. And again, excuse my cynicism for a moment, please, but it is an award that their lawyers, Harry and Meghan's lawyers, are involved in. Now, I'm not saying there's any fix or anything like that, but by complete coincidence, that their lawyers are involved in it.
Okay.
Anyway, so she was due to get an award, but there have been problems in LA, there have been some riots recently, and I think they're not sure if they might postpone the event. Now, I'm sure Meghan will be disappointed, because that will mean that perhaps her latest achievement won't be able to overshadow Trooping the Colour, which we're looking forward to this weekend.
Oh, yes.
So anyway, Meghan will have to wait for her latest prize.
We'll get to Trooping the Colour in a minute, but according to the Mail on Sunday, Meghan and Harry were quite happy with how her pregnancy twerking video went down in the end.
I mean, I think it wasn't just us, but generally in Britain, the reaction to the twerking in the maternity suite video, I would say, was not largely positive. People were shocked.
Can you imagine? I mean, it would be hard for you to relate, but can you imagine even wanting to do that at that point? I
said it on the programme last week. I just could not have thought of anything that would be less far from my mind.
But anyway, Charlotte Griffiths has been speaking to people in the Harry and Meghan camp in America, and they were delighted with the reaction. They think it's great. To be honest, why did Meghan put this video up? It was for publicity. It was on her Instagram account.
Yeah.
So if she gets lots of engagement or whatever, maybe that's what she wants. But, what next? We'll see what
next indeed. I have to say, I know this programme and we have a lot of American viewers. Judging from the comments, not every American thought it was amazing. Let's just say that.
I'm sure there were mixed opinions.
Well,
but
maybe they're just operating on the no publicity is bad publicity. I mean, I don't know if you get paid for people watching your Instagram, because I can imagine it was hugely watched just by people from a shock value, from a rubbernecking value.
Well, Meghan wants as many people as possible to follow her so that she can sell them products. We know that.
Apparently, in the article, it was claimed that it's gone down well with younger people. So,
well, you said the other week that your daughter was like, people were doing it around that time, weren't they?
Well, my teenage daughter was a bit sort of nonplussed. She thought, big deal, it's a couple of middle-aged idiots.
There were no pearls clutching.
Dancing. She's just sort of bemused reaction to most sort of middle-aged people,
Oh, I know that all too well.
That's right to say.
Well, looking ahead, as I said, to the weekend, we have a couple of big royal events coming up. First up is Trooping the Colour. Now, Rebecca, for those who don't know, tell us what it is and why it's so important.
Well, the monarch has 2 birthdays a year. They have their own birthday and they have the official birthday. And the origins of this are kind of way back several centuries ago. But it's the king's official birthday, and it's a chance for the military to pay tribute to them as head of the armed forces. And we have, really amazing pomp and pageantry, the best of British out on display. It's a 3-line whip, all members of the royal family there. We're going to hopefully see the Waleses and all their 3 children, and they're obviously very entertaining on Trooping Day. I should actually say it's Trooping the Colour, because people will think it's Trooping of the Colour or something like that, but it's very much Trooping the Colour. So it's one of the big highlights of the royal calendar.
And Richard, now, we were talking about Charles's efforts with his big gun earlier, so some people will be disappointed that he won't be riding a horse.
Yes, this is like last year. Because of the King's cancer treatment, he's decided to just ride in a carriage with Queen Camilla rather than ride a horse. Because the previous year, before his cancer treatment, he did ride. And he was the first monarch to do so for a long time, because Queen Elizabeth gave it up back in, it was 1980s, was it? But riding horses is a big issue at Trooping. We know Prince William loves doing it. Princess Anne always does. I'll never remember, I got in awful trouble actually with Prince Philip in my old job at the previous newspaper, where we ran a story that Prince Philip wasn't going to ride his horse. And I probably shouldn't say this, but he was furious. He was so angry with the story. So he wrote to our proprietor, Comrade Black.
Oh, wow.
And he explained that he was angry about the story, not because of the suggestion that he was too old to ride, but the reason he'd given up was because his horse was too old. And he thought that at his grand old age at that point, it wouldn't be right to sort of start with a younger horse. So he thought at that time he'll give up. But anyway, so I was in trouble.
You needling the royals.
I was in trouble over that one.
Could you just try and stay out of trouble? Just 1 week, Richard Eden.
So royals and horses are a sensitive issue.
Indeed. Now, after Trooping the Colour, just a couple of days later, we've got the Order of the Garter. Now, remind people, Rebecca, what that is and what we can expect. I believe there are plumes involved.
There are plumes, there are velvet cloaks. Again, a lot of pomp and pageant, and we're in that kind of time of year, the summer season. So the Order of the Garter is Britain's most ancient order of chivalry, and it's given out by the sovereign for service to the crown and country. And we have this fabulous, they have a private lunch and an investiture of any new knights and ladies of the Garter up at Windsor Castle, and they process all the way down to St George's Chapel, which is the official home of the order. And there's lots of kind of cap doffing and smiling and carriages, and it's a fabulous day. And actually, it's too late this year, obviously, but the members of the public can apply for tickets to go and watch it. It's completely free. There's a ballot. And I would urge people to do, if they're thinking of maybe coming to the UK, think about coming in June, because there's things like this you can see. It doesn't cost you a penny.
Idea.
And you can apply for them on the St George's Chapel website. So it's well worth thinking of doing that next year.
And I think even the forecast looks all right, doesn't it?
Forecast at the moment, certainly in London for the next week or so, is fantastic.
Beautiful day today. And what are you most looking forward to from it all, Richard?
If you love the royal pomp and pageantry, this is the greatest week of the year. You know, with Trooping the Colour, Order of the Garter and Royal Ascot as well. It's fantastic. For me, I think what I'm looking forward to is I hope Katherine, the Princess of Wales, will be there to watch the Order of the Garter ceremony, because it's always so, watching her trying to sort of stifle her giggles as Prince William parades past in his heavy velvet in the sunshine is always amusing. So I look forward to that.
Yeah, me too.
I'll be there on Monday, but we don't know actually if they're going to arrive until they do. We don't get the heads up. So.
But what about today, Rebecca? I believe, we're talking about it's the royal season. There's a lot going on today.
Genuinely, there are not enough hours in the day to cover royal events at the moment.
How many are you hobnobbing with?
I've got to write 3 stories as soon as we finish filming here, and then get to Windsor to cover one myself. So we've got a really busy day today. We've got Prince William down on Dartmoor, really beautiful area in the west of England, and he's there to kind of highlight the importance of protecting the kind of rare peatland there. And he's going to visit a place called Royal Tor Bog, which I thought was particularly appropriate.
Very royal.
But bogs are an important part of peatland, Joe. So
okay.
I'll give you a geography lesson later.
Consider me schooled.
And then we've got today the King, I think as I mentioned before, he's going to attend the award ceremony for his King's Foundation. It's celebrating 35 years this year. David Beckham's going to be there, and I've been told another jaw-dropping guest, but I don't know who it is. I was desperately trying to find out before we started filming.
English.
This is tantalising.
I'm so sorry. I'm completely let you down because I don't know.
Well, that's exciting.
And then tonight I'm going to hot foot it to Windsor, because it's a big reception for this year's winners of the King's Award for Enterprise, which was set up by Queen Elizabeth in 1965, and it's the most prestigious award for business in the country. And it's a real honour to get, and you've got pretty much every member of the royal family there. You've got the King, the Edinburghs, the Gloucesters, Princess Anne. It's a sign of how significant these awards are, and you've got companies like Jellycat being honoured there, and also actually Queen Camilla's favourite shoe designer, a company called Soul Bliss.
Oh, yes.
She's won a lot of their designs before, and they've got a King's Award for Enterprise. I've interviewed actually the lady who runs it, Lisa Kay, and she was saying to me, we applied independently. I said, but maybe you got a little kind of, nod from, Her Majesty that this would be good. But she told me she started the business in 8 years from literally nothing, and now it's a £10 million business.
There's a lot of actresses love those shoes because they wear them on the red carpet beneath their gowns.
They do.
They're very
you were telling me
comfortable.
Julia Roberts, Dame Helen Mirren, all sorts of
Judi
stars.
Dench,
So exactly. So it shows this positive impact as we started the show, saying that where the royal family can amplify the great achievements that go on in the UK.
You're so busy.
It is really busy.
Are you wearing this tonight?
Oh, well, whatever I wear at the start of the day, I'm wearing at the end of the day.
That's my favourite thing you've ever worn. I love it.
Thank you.
Anyway, hear that? It is time, that's right. It's time to nominate your unsung royal hero of the week. Now, usually I ask my panel, but this one comes in from a viewer. Yes, Jen M wrote after last week's programme and said, a very good show again this week. I'm wondering when Vice Admiral Sir Tim Lawrence is going to be nominated as an unsung hero. He does a superb job. Rebecca, Jen's not wrong, is she?
This is such a good suggestion. I actually feel a bit ashamed we haven't nominated him before. So thank you. But he is truly an unsung hero of the royal family, because he's not an official working royal. Obviously, he is a spouse of the Princess Royal, who's had a very important job of his own all these years, but he is adored by the royal family. I mean, Prince Philip and him got on like a house on fire. Queen Elizabeth adored him, and he's just seen as a thoroughly good egg as far as the family concerned.
A rock.
Yeah, he is an absolute rock. I mean, he does actually join his wife off and on when she does her official trips abroad, for example, because it's nice to be able to share these trips with her, and he's just solid. You've never heard him say a wrong word, you've never seen him put a foot wrong, He's fantastic. So it's a very, very good suggestion.
Lovely. Well done, Jen. Now, one place we are sure to see Princess Anne and Sir Tim is Trooping the Colour this weekend. As we were just discussing before, it is one of the most spectacular events of the royal calendar. So it seemed like a very good opportunity to look back at some brilliant photographs of the event, which will show you why we love it so much. Some unbeatable pictures there. Now, there's a lot going on next week, so you won't want to miss next week's show when we are planning quite the surprise for you. You won't want to miss it. One way you won't miss it is to subscribe to the Daily Mail Royals YouTube channel to get notified every time we put out a new episode. So what are you waiting for? Now, it's just time for now to say thanks to my guests, Rebecca and Richard, and of course to you for watching. I will see you next week on Palace Confidential. Bye for now.